An issue we've talked about on this channel several times is the existence of and purchasing of digital games. Now, I'm not overtly against digital as an existing alternative, but that's what I believe it should be, is an alternative. I just don't believe it should replace the idea of physical. I really kind of believe that for actually everything, even something like small indie games, although I know at that point it is very hard to distribute, and sometimes that's really the only way to get it out there. This is kind of rearing its head again. We talked about this before with the PlayStation 3 potential shutdown a long time ago, and then it was reversed by Sony, where they actually did not shut down the store. However, there have been accounts before of games disappearing and just being gone. We've seen this even with something more recent like PT, which was the Silent Hills demo from Kojima and Konami, where it's just gone. If you don't have that thing anymore, you can't even re-download it. They have purposely made it extinct. This is something that they can do, and recently it happened with some games on the PlayStation 3. Because whenever we talk about this stuff, people always say, well, you know, name one time that this actually happened. When did people actually lose access to their digital games? They always ignore PT because it wasn't a full game. But if we're looking at real games, this did just happen with a bunch of games on PS3 for a lot of players. Now, it's back to working for some of them, but not all of them. And there was an issue with the PlayStation Store where a lot of PS1 classic versions of games like Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger, and others, Final Fantasy VI being one of them, became unplayable completely. They actually showed that they had expired. The license to play the game had expired under the remaining time section, and it said that it had expired all the way back in 1969. Now, I've only seen this covered by The Verge and Kotaku. I'm not sure if other people are covering it or not right now. I know a lot of people are just going to ignore it just because it's PS3. It's like, well, it's an old platform, who cares? But to me, this is about the precedent. You know, Jill is here with me today, too. I just talked everyone's ear off. But this is something we've talked about behind the scenes, too, where whether you are buying a license or not for a disc, right, for the product on the disc, which you are, you're not buying the IP to Star Wars. You don't become the new George Lucas when you buy a Star Wars game, sadly.
It's actually pronounced Jorge.
Jorge Lucas. Mm-hmm. You sadly don't become him when you buy the Star Wars game and have billions of dollars and the whole franchise. You just own that disc. But here's the difference. If I buy a digital game on a marketplace digitally, I have the license to that product and it can be revoked at any time. In order to revoke my license to the product on a disc, someone would have to break into my house and take it.
You know, the men in black would have to knock down your door and then take the disc and then break it in half in front of you and tie you up and torture you with the fact that all
They don't usually torture you. They just do the light thing.
Well, no, it's like a torture because they're making you sit there tied up, can't do anything, and then you're watching all your discs be broken that you spent your entire life savings on. I mean, it's a pretty terrible fate.
It just seems it seems inefficient they wouldn't just use the light thing, but I'll go with this.
Well, I'm just saying, it seems...
Will Smith is out of line now. He's slapping people. Maybe he wouldn't use the light.
It's just inefficient in general to go to people's houses and do that. They're not going to do that or waste the money on it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, you know, Kotaku actually noted that there is a possible reason this is happening, which could be a glitch that's causing the PS Vita and PS3 to revert the game license's expiration dates.
I don't believe them.
All the way back to Unix. I mean, it really is possible if that's a glitch, but here's the problem. Even if it is, it's still about the precedent. I'm not saying this to fearmonger. Like, what you do with your money is honestly up to you. I don't care if you buy every game digitally. That's on you. And you know,
kiss them goodbye in 10 years.
Well, the thing is, like, I don't think that's worth it, because if you lose your account, like let's say it gets taken from you or hacked or banned or whatever, you could lose those games. If some developer wants to take your access to those games away, you could also lose those games. This was something I was looking at even in the terms of service for the Sony PlayStation. It straight up says you are buying a license to the product and not the product itself.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, here's the thing. At any time, these places like PlayStation or Xbox can just ban you. Like, you won't be able to log into your account anymore.
That's the other thing with the EULA, too, that a lot of people don't read, is that they can really remove you from the platform for any reason. You have no legal grounds to sue. You have no legal grounds to do anything. You are a guest on the platform, even if you paid $500 for the plastic box like the PS5. You're a guest on their digital platform.
Yeah. You
are not an owner or a tenant or anything like that. You're a guest. And you can be removed for really any reason.
Mm-hmm. Or no reason.
Yeah, really, or no reason. That's also one of the reasons people are so worried about the credit score type stuff and all that, is like eventually this is tinfoil hat me, so don't take this seriously. But what I'm saying is, one fear that some people have is that once everything is connected, all of your, Xbox, PlayStation, Facebook, Twitter, all this stuff is connected. If someone doesn't like you, who's higher up in the hierarchy of power, they could immediately remove you from all platforms. And that's kind of a worry that people have been having, especially now that it's been coming out that, a lot of these big tech companies work with the U.S. government and other governments for anti-terrorism and other stuff, and they just straight up leak your personal information because you give it to them, and they can.
And then they would hack into your self-driving car and drive you straight to the federal prison.
That's a concern too. Let's not cause nightmares for me. But some people are going to say, see, this guy's like just totally nuts, but it's just interesting to me because whenever we talk about this, seriously, have you noticed this? Jill looks at the comments way more than I. I look at the top ones. I don't look at all the ones calling me the N-word and telling me to off myself.
I do. I think those people are funny.
I'm extremely white, and I'm just surprised people can be that colorblind. But I will say with that, it's odd to me because you've seen this a lot in the comments, and I've seen it in some of them. Whenever we talk digital, people get very defensive.
Yeah.
Like, people are like, well, name one time that happened. It's like PT. That's a great time. Well, that's not a real game. It's like, but it was a experience game that was distributed to PlayStation users if you wanted it. And now if it's off your platform or off your console, you can't really even re-download it. There might be like a workaround it now, but there wasn't for a long time.
You know what's funny? Even now that you're giving the example of these full PS3 games, those same people will just be like, well, they're old. Does anybody even like old games? Like they're like John PlayStation or something.
Yeah, the CEO of PlayStation. Old games suck. Yeah, or it's an old platform. So it's like, well, it should be expected. The platform's dead. Move on. It's like, sure, but those same groups, maybe not you if you're a huge proponent of digital, but a lot of those same groups that are very big fans of digital also say, well, I have my digital game forever. Yeah, I don't think you can have your cake and eat it too. If you believe that you have it forever, that means that nobody should be able to just take it away from you, right?
Yeah.
Or it means that just because the platform got old doesn't mean it should be gone. You have it forever. Mm-hmm. Even your PS3 burns out. Well, can't you just buy another one and re-download it?
No.
If in 50 years you can't do that, then you don't have your game forever. Because the hardware is limited. It has limited use. And people say, well, discs do too. Yeah, kind of. Most retail discs have very, very long lifespans. Even PS1 discs, retail printed, they're not the same as a CD that you buy and write yourself. They're actually a much higher quality disc. They last for decades and decades. Most of them are still working perfectly fine now. DVDs last even longer than that, the retail versions of the disc, not you buying it and burning it. Those are the kind that usually have disc rot. It can happen with retail. It's rare. Takes a long time. And Blu-rays and 4Ks, they are estimated in the right conditions to be able to outlast several lifetimes of a human being.
Wow.
You could pass down a Blu-ray to your great-grandkids or their grandkids, and it'll probably still work if you're not like literally shitting on it every day and like taking a piss on it every morning and then keeping it in 500-degree weather. Like, yes, you can ruin it, but you're gonna have to go out of your way with like the Monster Rally monster trucks to take that thing out.
Yeah, and by that point, those many generations down the road, there's probably gonna be some people who are niche kind of like clock fixers who can fix those kind of discs or at least rewrite them.
It is very possible. We don't know what kind of technology will exist in the future, but I don't know. I hope this issue gets resolved. I'm not trying to fearmonger and say like never buy a digital game again. We have some digital games. We have Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, I buy the digital games begrudgingly though, like if I can't actually get them physically. Like, here's the thing. Nintendo, DS, 3DS in specifics, I'm talking to you. Style Savvy Styling Star is one of my favorite fashion games of all time.
They're not listening.
One of my favorite fashion games of all time. You know what it is? It's only digital on the 3DS. I'm so mad about it. Oh, the two other Style Savvy games are physical. Both of them. I'm still mad about it.
Yeah, well, you should look at things that have their functionality in digital, too. I mean, there are entire apps, like, say, the DS, that's a great one there, the 3DS, that have functionality in games that the games needed them. So a good example of that is Pokemon X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Yes, I know they're old, so who cares? That's what people say. But The thing with those is a much easier way to trade and store your Pokemon is with Pokemon Bank. It was an outside app. You could actually pay for a yearly subscription. I did it, by the way, because what they did was they nerfed the game's storage so that you couldn't actually store as many Pokemon on the game itself as you used to be able to. It was bullshit, by the way. So now that that is set to shut down sometime in 2023, you kind of have to ask yourself, okay, well, what happens to that functionality? Does that go somewhere else?
Are they going to add more storage in the game?
Is that going to be from Pokemon Home now? Is that going to be the replacement and that'll work perfectly? Or will it have issues? Or will it not even do the full same thing that Bank used to do? You know, you have these problems where you design these apps and games to also be interconnected. And sometimes you do that digitally. And then that also ends up affecting the core performance and the game itself, like the core game. It is a core effect on those Pokemon games, that generation, that it's not going to be as easy to store Pokemon. That's something that actually affects the gameplay, even if you still have the cartridge. So now you're getting to the point where you have digital aspects tied into cartridges too, or games that are completely broken like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, where the patch is bigger than the game. It's a joke, and it's so frustrating.
Oh, like COD, too.
Yeah, COD is like that every time. It's so frustrating because it's getting to the point where for a lot of discs, not all, but a lot, even if you do buy the disc, it's still hindered and limited by this constant fear of them taking something away from you, of them taking the game away from you. Even online games, Fallout 76, oh, it's bad. Okay, let's say you play it. You're banned from Xbox. Well, you have to start all over.
That sucks.
You don't have that game really anymore. Even if you have the disc, you're going to have to install it on a new profile, start from scratch. You don't even have a local save.
Nope. No.
It just doesn't matter.
That's pretty bad. And that's the big problem is a lot of these games now, they're not even being fully printed on those discs.
No.
Like, we even talked about it with that Skyrim, like, Anniversary Edition.
Yep.
That's just the special edition disc. It doesn't have any of the, like, anniversary stuff on it. You have to download that from the store.
It has a code voucher.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. You know, back when I was young, old man Jay talking now, well, we used to have on the good old days the Xbox 360, yeehaw! We got a lot of messages where people called us the N-word and told us to off ourselves. It's very similar to YouTube, but I will say, one of the great things we did have on that, despite overt racism, was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 lobbies. Oh wait, that's more racism. Actually, we had complete versions of games where you get the game of the year. A lot of people are like, what the hell is that? Well, they've actually done a few of them on the PS4 and Xbox One and Series X as well, but really what it was the whole game was on the disc. Mm-hmm. That's something I really liked.
Even with the DLCs.
A great example of that is Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. You buy that on the PS4, all DLCs are on the disc, everything's on the disc. It might have gotten some patches again since that, but it works. You know, it works off of that disc. And all the DLC is there too. It's not like today where you can just be locked out of parts of the experience or all of the experience, whether you buy digital or not. It's almost like disc is the lesser of two evils because you get locked out of less. Mm-hmm. You can at least play something if something goes wrong, but it might not even be the full game.
Mm-hmm. Which is a shame because a lot of these games, like, you know, even something like where if you bought the disc for like one of those Battlefield games or something or COD, you could pretty much only play the campaign, you know, and I think I remember you saying with one of those games that they only had like the first part of a campaign on the disc and then the rest of the campaign you had to have downloaded digitally.
Yeah, Halo Infinite is weird about that, where like parts of the game are on the disc, parts of it are digital, and it's an odd mix. Even if you buy the disc, I don't really fully understand that one myself. I will say I'm not an expert.
So that one you could just be locked out of like half the game.
So I don't really even know if they will add to it. But if they do, that means your full Master Chief campaign that you get is not complete. Unlike Halo 2 or Halo 1 or Halo 3, it has to be something down the line. And let's say they do add to it, well then that means that if you play it down the line and you can't access that content, you're playing part of Halo Infinite's single-player component. And that would be it.
And then you have to hope that they like add all of this to some Master Chief collection in the future or something.
Yeah, or a disc or something. Yeah. It's really frustrating to me. I don't know. There's a lot of problems with this stuff, and some of them do apply to disc too. I absolutely will concede that, but it seems less of a problem that you're opening yourself up to.
Long story short, take your Blu-ray discs and put them in the toilet every single day and take a shit on them and see how well they hold up.
Yeah, and just buy Disney Plus, And then don't be upset when they censor things or remove content you like because you didn't want to buy it.
In Hercules, that movie, like, Hades smokes a cigar. Like, I'm surprised, 'cause I haven't seen anything online yet of, like, that they haven't censored that part out. You know? Like, that's coming. And they censored out the blood for, like, Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I know, and they said it's for the children's version or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they could just as easily have never restored the adult version.
Yeah.
That's the thing, when you give all of this control to a giant company, they're not your buddy. They don't care about you.
No.
At least if you buy the disc, they'd have to break into your house to take it. That's really what it is for me at the end of the day.
When we're not supporting piracy, or are we?
Well, that's the problem. Is like emulation has now become really the only way to play most classic games. So I'd actually say I 100% support emulation. I mean, like, if a company wants you to not play their game illegally, they better offer a way to get it legally. Otherwise, what do they have to complain about?
And these days, when, like, Disney Plus and HBO Max won't put out anything physical anymore, you have to go on Etsy and find, like, a weird Russian dude who prints it.
Not that we would.
No, we don't.
But plenty of people do.
We don't do that.
No, plenty of people do, though. So it's a thriving market.
It is
for you to
thriving market.
Not get into and not get arrested for.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on all of this? What are your thoughts on digital versus physical? This is something we talk about quite a few times. Please be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this and leave a like. We are at over 106,000 subscribers now. I appreciate you all very, very much, and we are growing and moving on up in the world. And pretty soon we will have an army large enough to commit Order 66 against the Podcast Now channel.
Oh.
We will attack Alex on all fronts.
Well, I think we should attack him simply because he gets more views on his Kingdom Hearts videos.
That's absolutely true. YouTube, that was a joke. Alex and I are friends. Have a fantastic day, everyone. As always, stay shui.